This is a dangerous bean. I know from experience, and I'll tell you how, but first. Hello friends and not yet friends, today we turn lupini beans into tofu. For anyone new to the channel and this series, I'm taking non-soy ingredients one at a time and applying the traditional method of making tofu. The first step is always soaking the dried beans, since at home we're generally going to be working with store-bought dried beans. But this ancient bean contains bitter alkaloids, which are toxic. So we can't just soak them overnight and away we go like the typical tofu making method. These must be soaked and drained multiple times a day for several days, and of course, like all beans, cooked before eating. At least according to the set of directions I decided to follow. I soaked these beans and changed the water twice daily for 7 days. Then tasted for bitterness as instructed. Oh, sick. My friends, it was the worst day of my life. My head hurts and my stomach clenches at just the memory of that overwhelming bitterness flooding my mouth and sticking around even as I desperately rinsed over and over. Still, it could have been worse. People have gone to the hospital over this bean. Some people have even died. I mean, I almost died for you guys, so at least you can do is give me a thumbs up, right? I'm kidding. Kind of. There's another method that calls for boiling the beans first, but my experience with trying to make tofu from cooked beans told me I needed to follow this original method first. Give this tofu the best chance of success. So I continued to soak and drain every day for a month. Nothing I read said you needed that long, but I was not taking any chances, my friends. In fact, after a month, the memory of the bitterness was still so fresh that I didn't want to go on. So now is a great time to thank the people responsible for bringing this video to you. That is everyone who kept requesting that I make this lupini tofu. Seriously, I considered canning the experiment, but I pressed on. For you. Actually, I chickened out on trying it after a month and continued the soak and drain for another month, bringing our total time to 2.5 months until I was finally brave enough for another bite. No bitterness. That's good. After draining, we have about 1 kilogram of soaked lupini beans. That's from a starting weight of 1 pound or 454 grams of dried beans. Anyways, because the skins on the lupini beans are so thick and not really meant to be eaten, I'm removing them first. The beans are actually pretty easy to squeeze out. But halfway through, my fingers are getting raisiny and tired, so I switched to using a knife to nick the edge, and that makes it so much easier. Honestly, this is not as tedious as it looks. It's kind of fun. And now we have 668 grams of shelled raw lupini beans and this heaping bowl of bean skins. Those will go directly into compost. The shelled beans go into my blender, half at a time so that I can double the amount of water. No exact measurements needed. We're just going to blend it for 20 to 30 seconds on high in the Vitamix to really break down those beans and free up the protein. Then pour into a good quality nut milk bag. And same with the rest of the beans. Then we squeeze to extract the protein-rich milk while keeping the fibrous pulp in the bag. If this isn't the happiest color of plant-based milk ever, I don't know what is. It's just gorgeous. Afterwards, the pulp is as dry as I can get it, and quite fluffy looking. This is very different from soy pulp, also known as okara. It's so unique, I'll set it aside to experiment with later. For now, I will let this bright yellow milk settle, so hopefully the starch will sink to the bottom as we did with fava bean and red lentil milk before. After 20 minutes, the layers don't seem to be settling out like the other milks we've tried. It's watery on top, and this seems to be the creamy, milky, protein-rich layer. However, I'm not seeing a distinct layer of starch at the bottom that we could separate out easily. So since we have to move along, I'll pour this slowly into the cooking pot. Time to cook, so I'll turn on the heat under the pot and get a few other things ready. First, my favorite tofu press. It comes with a cheesecloth for tofu making, but today I'm actually using a larger cloth that I bought separately, just because the other one is still drying after another experiment. I'm also preparing my coagulant. For a pound of beans, I typically prepare a tablespoon of food-grade gypsum, aka calcium sulfate, with a cup of room temperature or slightly warmer water. But I seem to be running out. Luckily, I have other coagulants on hand. Nagari, aka magnesium chloride, is often used in Japanese tofu, and I also have Epsom salts, aka magnesium sulfate. I might not need them today, but I'll keep them nearby. Finally, I also like to have my handy dandy laser thermometer, just so I can report to you the temperature as we go along. You don't really need one to make tofu. But you will need a spatula, preferably one that has a flat edge like this to stir down the bottom of the pot and prevent the protein-rich milk from burning as we heat it up. We do need to cook this milk thoroughly, same as any bean-based milk, before it's safe for consumption. I know I love to say that there are no rules, but in this case there is like a rule. But it just means taking this to a simmer and letting it simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then it's ready to try to coagulate. So I'll check the temperature one last time. I want it to be about 180 to 185 degrees Fahrenheit. And stir up the gypsum and water mixture as it will have settled, and slowly pour in about half into the milk while continuing to stir. I want it to be thoroughly combined. Then pop on the lid, wait 5 minutes, and the coagulant will do its thing. Afterwards, you can see clouds of fine curds, not large ones like we'd see when we make soy tofu, so it may just be that we need more coagulant. In goes another half of the coagulant, using up the power of 2 teaspoons of calcium sulfate. And we will wait another 15 minutes. But this time, I want to make sure that the temperature does not drop below 160 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the typical temperature for soy coagulation. If it's not warm enough, we're not giving its best chance to coagulate. So if the temperature does drop, I'll just turn the heat back on low, to keep it warm. Moment of truth. Still, after those efforts, it's not looking great, my friends. So as a last effort, I add a teaspoon of nagari. Some commercial tofu makers use both in their tofu, so this isn't completely unusual. However, after keeping the heat on low, 15 minutes later, there doesn't seem to be much change. Still, we know from the fine curds we got in our red lentil tofu experiment and our previous peanut tofu experiment, we can still make tofu or something else good out of it. So let's get the curds strained. I don't really want to taste this, but I will for you. All right, my friends, last step. This is probably hopeless. Most likely hopeless. This looks worse than the sunflower tofu, which was not even that bad now that I think back on it. I think I was really too harsh on the sunflower seeds. But come on, this looks pathetic. This is horrible. We really have a beautiful, bright yellow color. This reminds me of the hotel scene from Last of Us. First, or was it the second episode? I don't remember. But okay, I'm gonna get a rubber spatula and scrape down the sides. It looks like oil paint. Maybe if this doesn't work as food, we'll make some sort of art project. I mean, it's disgusting or it's beautiful. You can think of it one way or the other. It's up to you. My gosh. I really expected better. Right. Let's put this in the fridge and see what happens tomorrow. Since that whey was so bitter, I am going to go in and taste this okara because I don't really want to keep this pulp around if it's like totally inedible. I don't want to waste time or effort or energy. So I am going to taste this. I'm going to put some in the microwave to cook it through. I'm scared. It just tastes like beans. No, but wait, no. I'm having red lentil pulp flashbacks, only this is a million times worse. It's straight up poison, guys. My stomach hurts. I feel like I have a headache coming on. So if this video never makes it up, you guys know why. I mean, then you wouldn't know why. Never mind. I'm delirious, clearly. Okay. Well, in conclusion, I'm very scared to taste the tofu tomorrow. It probably is going to be straight up poison. Am I going to be eating poison just for YouTube? Let's see if I live till tomorrow morning. We'll find out. You'll find out in 2 seconds. All right, friends, I don't really want to do this, but we're doing it. Oh, dear. Oh, my. Oh, it's buttery. Oh, here we go. It's cracking already. Oh, no. All right, my friends. I'm pretty scared to do this, but I'm going to do this for you. I have no intention of swallowing. All right, so I didn't really get bitter out of that, but I don't know if I chewed it long enough to get that bitter flavor, because if you recall with the pulp, it took like a few seconds. And so I'm scared of this. I feel like I should try again with the boiling method of debittering the lupini bean, because people out there eat those beans. I must have just done it wrong. And even though we get very little product out of this, it's very interesting texture. I think it would be really useful. Like, look at that. And if I could find sweet lupini beans, wouldn't that be something? Like, I feel like there's so much potential here. Look at that. It's awesome. Look at that wonderful texture. I love it. Anyways, well, I'm not going to eat this. I'm not going to try. I'm not going to air fry it. I'm not going to deep fry it. I feel like we just need to try again.